because I was responsible for this little human in my body. I remember them offering me certain medications. I was like, nah, I'm okay. And I remember my doctor recommending that I take, I think it's B6 or eating bananas. The bananas worked in the beginning. They stopped working because the nausea just kept getting worse. And then I remember taking the B6 and it was kind of doing something, but like I said, it got so bad that my husband had to eat his dinner outside. He had to eat dinner outside, and even when he ate dinner outside, I could still smell it when he came inside. He left everything outside, but I could still smell it on him. I remember having to stay upstairs for the majority of my pregnancy from February to like May. I had to stay upstairs for 4 months of my pregnancy. I stayed upstairs in our home because I could smell the refrigerator. There was garlic in my freezer, like a marinade, and it had garlic in it, and I could smell it. I could smell the garlic in the marinade in the freezer, and it was making me sick. It was making me nauseous. So for those 4 months, I did not see my downstairs. I could not. I stayed upstairs in the room on the floor laid out because I just could not. So sick and throwing up. I couldn't light a candle. You couldn't spray anything around me. I just could not. Anything just made me sick. So then I remember around March, like 2 weeks or a week before March ended, I started experiencing these pains on my right side. I'm still in and out of the hospital because of hyperemesis gravidarum. I keep throwing up. At this point, I'm only eating one bite of a plain rice. And what's that stuff called? It's like Pedialyte, but for adults. The Pedialyte stuff, the hydrating stuff. I was drinking that and eating one bite, literally one bite of a plain rice cake. And even that was hard. And I remember being able very early in the morning because I had accepted B6 work, but it wasn't working as much. So then my doctor also recommended Unisom, which helped me sleep. It would knock me out and I'd feel so at peace. So early in the morning before the nausea would hit me, I would take my prenatal vitamins. And that's the only way it stayed down. And I was surviving off of Pedialyte and one bite of a plain rice cake. Shout out to my sister. She was door dashing me cornflakes and plain stuff to see what would stick. She's amazing. Love her. And the rice cake, the plain rice cakes would stick. So I started experiencing this pain on my right side. And I spoke with my doctor and she told me to go to the ER, just get me checked out to make sure there's nothing wrong. I went and they said it was my uterus stretching because I'm pregnant. So I go back home. They checked my blood work. Everything's fine. Check the baby. She's fine. That time I did not know she was a girl. And I went back home. The pain came back. So I went back. They checked everything again, said I was fine, sent me back home. I called my OB to let her know what's going on. I was like, I'm experiencing this pain and they're saying it's my uterus. Love my OB. She is no longer in practice, but I wish she still was because she is absolutely amazing. She said, I don't think it's pregnancy related. I think you have appendicitis. And here goes that famous line. That's normal in pregnancy. So I'm having this pain. And she's like, listen, if this pain comes back and it's worse, which it was getting worse and worse and worse. She says, go to the hospital again. I kid you not. It was Friday night. We go to bed. At this point, this pain is so bad. It hurts. It's like a throbbing pain. I wake up in the middle of the night with so much pain that I couldn't even sit up. I felt like if I sat up, something inside me was going to. So my husband rushed me to the hospital. By this time, the beginning of March, we had bought a car. So we had a car and we went to the hospital again and we explained to them, listen, we've been here 3 times now. We're not leaving until we get answers. So they did more additional tests. Instead of just blood work this time, they did an ultrasound. Baby in there kicking, having a good old time, happy. But I'm not. Then they did, I think it's MRI. I might be wrong. The one without radiation. They did that to check. And I had the general doctor come in. I had the OB come in. I had the general surgeon come in. Everybody tell me, we don't think it's appendicitis. We think it's your uterus stretching. I'm pretty sure you're going to get results back that you're completely fine. At this point, my nausea is back because, you know, the Unisom helps, but then it wears off by the morning. We got there at like 4 a.m. At this point, it was like 7 a.m. And I need my like rice cake and Pedialyte to hold me over because now I'm really, really hungry, but very nauseous at the same time. Not to mention, I also developed this excess saliva. So I just kept spitting. It started in February and I just kept spitting. It was a lot of saliva. And they said to me, that's normal in pregnancy. Excess saliva. People thought I was so hydrated, but I was really spitting in a bottle. I'd make it discreet. I'd go, and you know, people thought that I was just being hydrated when really I had a lot of saliva. I could fill up a whole bottle. Disgusting, I know, in a day. Yeah, it was gross. I'm in the ER and everybody's telling me it's not appendicitis and you'll be cleared soon. You get to eat something or whatever and go home. At this point, I have the trash can right in front of me and I am throwing up air and stomach acid. And the doctor for the ER comes in. I was like, okay, and the results in, can I eat now? She's like, no, you can't. You have acute appendicitis. So before I can even blink, I'm being wheeled into surgery. My husband, just thinking about it, makes me sad because he was so scared. You know, I was scared too, especially being pregnant, having 6 miscarriages. And you're telling me that I have acute appendicitis and I have to go into surgery while pregnant. And by the grace of God, I remember, I'll never forget, they said, you just made it to, what did I make it? To my 2nd trimester. They said, if you weren't in your 2nd trimester, this surgery would be dangerous because you could lose your child. The chances of me losing my child was high. That's what they told me. And they're like, you just made it into 2nd trimester. You'll be all right. And that scared me because I had so many miscarriages. I was scared going in there anyways. We were scared. We were holding our breath. And of course, the first person I text, my best friend and my sisters. I was like, I am scared. I'll never forget that day. So they wheeled me into surgery and I wake up and I'll never forget the song that was on my heart. I remember coming to and I did not know this song. I had to go look it up. There was this song that kept playing over in my head. I don't know if somebody was playing it while I was out of it, but it was, and I throw up my hands, praise you again and again. So I don't know while I was out of it if somebody was playing this song, or I don't know, but I came to, and I just kept hearing, Alleluia, Alleluia. I just kept hearing that as I was coming to, and I went and looked it up. But I just kept hearing that song, and I don't know where that song came from. Never heard of it. I actually started listening to Brandon Lake after that. That became me and my daughter's song. From then on, every morning I'd play that song and I'd put it by my belly so she would hear it too. Because that became the theme to this pregnancy. I was still so nervous. I remember waking up and being so nervous that I had lost my baby. I was holding my breath until someone gave me an ultrasound. I was like, "You're going to give me an ultrasound here? Are you going to check my child? Da, da, da. I need to know if she's okay." And they're like, "No, you could see your doctor. They'll check," which I didn't get because I'm like, "You're a hospital. Give me the ultrasound. Check my baby. Make sure she's okay." But they told me my doctor could do that. I also forgot to mention that I was also seeing a high-risk doctor because of my thyroid. I was assigned a high-risk doctor who I loved. I owe her a painting, actually. I need to send her a painting. Christmas passed and I did not send her this painting, and I was supposed to. Oh my gosh. Being a mom is crazy. So, I was in the hospital for 2 days and then they discharged me. Uh, and at first I was feeling so much better. The nausea was actually gone. It did come back shortly after, and I went back to my struggle again. I remember I had lost 30, 35 pounds with hyperemesis. I did not gain weight. My baby was doing great, but me, I was losing weight and not gaining. With my newly discovered thyroid condition, before that, and I told you guys I was like tired and not sleeping, I was also gaining a lot of weight. Naturally, I weighed 150, 160. I always stayed within that range. I stayed in that range since uh, high school, and I've been like that since forever. But for some reason, I was gaining a lot of weight. So me losing that 30, 35 pounds was actually me going back to my regular weight while pregnant, which was not good because like you're supposed to gain something. I was 3 months pregnant at that point, and going into 4 months, April, it was still rough. Still couldn't smell stuff, still could not deal with a lot. It was tapering though. I feel like it was tapering because I was able to go downstairs and tolerate the smells downstairs, but not for long. And then at night, it would become so bad. I still was not eating 3 meals. I was drinking a lot of water, still spitting. So things started looking up after the appendicitis surgery. My baby was fine. She did great. So proud of her. Until this day, she sees the marks on both sides of my belly. And she touches them. I said, "That's when you were in my belly. We had surgery together." I always tell her, "We had surgery together." And I remember that. That was very rough for all of us. So coming home was rough too because I just needed a lot of help and I really didn't have that help. My husband was working and I was kind of here by myself. I remember just wanting 3 meals, someone to just cook it for us. My husband was exhausted. I was exhausted. We had nothing else. He was working 2 jobs at this point, a part-time and then his full-time job. And then they officially had put me on family leave because they didn't want me to lose my job because I kept taking days off. So human resources was like, "Let's put you on family leave so your absences can be accounted for. Like you have a reason." once they found out I had appendicitis surgery, which my boss, her name's Karen, I love her so much. She was one of the best bosses I ever had. She was one of the first people I contacted when I found out I had appendicitis. And I called her and I told her that. And I just broke down and cried when I told her. And she was like, "You're going to be okay," and all that. And she was the best. I loved her. I loved my job and I loved her. I worked with seniors. I loved working with them and I loved my boss. Yeah, those two things really made me love what I did. She was great. And they put me on family leave. And then, so I was basically going to work when I could. Didn't have it most of the days. And shout out to my boss for being so understanding. So after that, I remember in May, my sister was graduating with her Juris Doctorate, and she had invited us to her graduation and graduation party. Now, for my sister, I was like, I am going to figure it out. I was like, we're going. So we drove up to New York. My thought was wear a mask, and I got like tricks. So I had lemon oil and I would rub it on the top of the mask and it would kind of mask the smell. Like I said, the nausea, the issue was like tapering off. So it wasn't as severe. I mean, I was still not eating. I could not eat. I was still spitting pretty regularly, filling up bottles by the day. And I remember going and just kept applying that lemon oil. And I was doing pretty well. I was doing pretty good that day. I'll never forget that day. Not just because it was such a memorable day for my sister, but it was also the same day that I I no longer had HG, miraculously gone. So we went to her graduation, and I kid you not, I could smell the people's breath. They were talking and stuff, like people do for before the ceremony starts, which is normal. But I could smell their breath. I could smell these people's breath, and I was like so sick. I just kept drinking water and spitting. I was so sick. And then my husband, me, my sister, my mom, and my brother were there. And so there was three people. This guy was the fourth guy. He wasn't even near me. He was the fourth guy. And I kid you not, I could smell what he ate. Being pregnant is hard. And I don't think people understand the level of difficulty. Some people are graced, some people are blessed to have an easy pregnancy. And still, even the easiest pregnancy are difficult. There's a saying that says when you're pregnant, you have 1 foot on the earth and 1 foot in the grave, because pregnancy defies the human capabilities, the human capacity of pain and just things that the body couldn't do regularly that it does in pregnancy. So even those who didn't struggle with what I struggled still defied just logic. And I believe pregnancy is a work of God. It's a miracle, literally. It's a miracle because the things that you go through while being pregnant it's a lot. It's a lot. So I could smell this man's breath. And I was just like, I don't know how long I could take this before I start throwing up. I did not know. Um, the ceremony started, and I don't know. I stopped smelling this man's breath. I don't know. After the ceremony, something interesting happened. I was actually hungry. We were outside in fresh air, so I didn't catch a lot of smells, which is great. This was a good sign because normally I could be outside and I'm still catching every smell. And we get to the restaurant, a Haitian restaurant, and we sit down to eat. My sister had already selected the menu. There's this thing in the Haitian culture called pickles. The best way I can describe it, it's like sauerkraut or like coleslaw, but remove the mayonnaise, right? Keep the cabbage, keep the carrots, add onions, and add bell peppers sliced very thinly. And it's pickled. All right. It's good, delicious. But I can't eat that. I'm sick to my stomach. Smells gross me out. the food comes, I am actually starving. And I eat it and I just keep eating it. At this point, I'm fixated on this relish, like this thing, and I'm fixated on it. I'm putting it on everything, on the rice, on the meat, on the plantains, which you can, but I'm like eating it with everything. I'm obsessed. And the celebration ends, we cut the cake, everybody eats, and I didn't even notice I'm eating. I'm not noticing this. We drop off my siblings and we drive back to Jersey. This is like like an hour and some change ride. And by the time we get home, I realized we're getting out the car and I realized I did not pick up that spit bottle. Not once. Not once did I pick up that spit bottle. I don't know what happened. I'm hearing people are saying like the sourness or the spiciness. Someone said pickled beets cured their HG. So when I was pregnant with my second daughter and I felt that nausea coming on, because I did go through it the first 3 months of having my second daughter, I ate pickles. I ate it, the pickled cabbage. I ate it so much because I was like, I'm not getting HG again. I was so afraid. And apparently, having appendicitis when you're pregnant is normal. Apparently, the surgeon had told me having appendicitis, getting your gallbladder removed was normal when you're pregnant. I was like, that's crazy. Yeah, pregnancy is really the trenches. One thing I did not like of being pregnant is feeling very dependent on people, feeling very incapable. Like I have been a survivor and a fighter my whole life and very independent. And not saying I didn't feel safe. Shout out to my husband for helping me so much, tremendously, just being there for me the whole pregnancy. But something about the way I was raised, always being able to just do and go and just make sure I'm good. Pregnancy definitely taught me uh, to rest in the Lord, that God's got me. Because a lot of things that I would do on my own or just not depend on people, I had to. I learned to depend and create a community that had my back because I felt very incapable and I don't want to say useless because pregnancy, you're creating a whole human. Like you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. They said studies show now that women who are pregnant is equivalent to running a certain type of long marathon. I'm not sure. I can't, don't quote me. I'll probably put the quotes at the bottom. Also, side note, for those who are listening to this podcast, a lot of times when I say certain things on my YouTube, I'll actually put what I'm referencing on screen so people can know what I'm talking about. Like my last podcast that I just had prior to this one, I did put a lot of things on the screen so people could know what I was talking about because, we just gotta cite your sources, you know? But pregnancy was very difficult, especially my first pregnancy with my first child. It was really hard. It taught me a lot. It taught me to depend on God, that I was safe, that I was okay. And then after I got cured, because I feel like I was cured, but maybe the HG just tapered. I no longer had HG. Pregnancy kind of got easier. I began to nest. We had the cutest little bee-themed baby shower for my little honey, my sweetheart. It was great. I did it myself because I'm a party planner, and I know y'all probably side-eyeing me like, Shana, what do you mean? I didn't do it myself. I planned it and had people help me. And everybody was like, you shouldn't have done that. I know y'all, but it was my first kid. I wanted it to be perfect. And I used to party plan. I wanted to do it. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. I feel judged. I feel judged. After that, we just started preparing for the baby. I was induced, not because of any medical issues, but I didn't want a chance not getting my doctor. And at this point, I was miserable. I was so miserable. And my doctor saw it and she's like, if you opt in to be induced, you can. You're at the stage where you can opt in. And I don't care. I know people judged us, which is weird because we chose to be induced. And I don't think people should judge a mother if they're doing something that they feel they need to do for themselves. I was not okay. My doctor saw I was not okay. I was not sleeping. I was not getting any sleep. I was uncomfortable. I was miserable and I was not progressing. So she's like, you could opt in to be induced. And I really wanted for my doctor to deliver my baby. No random people. That's weird too. Like, why is it just whoever's at the hospital, that's who delivers? I don't like that. That's not the vibe. Like, that's added stress to the woman, in my opinion. I know some people's like, just get this baby out of me. I don't care. But for me, who needs some type of order to feel okay, and it being my first baby and this doctor being with me the whole journey, it just made sense that the doctor that's been with me the whole time deliver my baby. To me, it just made sense. I don't know. That's not normal apparently, but I think we should bring that back. I personally, if I was not high risk, I would have had my baby in my home with a midwife. But unfortunately, because I was high risk, I was not able to do that. The ideal scenario would be having my baby in my home with a midwife, avoid a hospital, and birth my child the way my body felt comfortable. But I had an amazing doctor. My pregnancy was not the best experience, but my labor experience was great. I had amazing nurses. I had my amazing doctor. She's so amazing. I'll probably never find someone as great as her. She was absolutely amazing. Years of experience. Great woman. I had Kyla, my eldest. We were admitted on the 7th and I labored for 12 hours, y'all, because it was my first rodeo. I just didn't want a C-section. That's all I knew. I was scared because anyone who knows me, I'm afraid of needles. I just had that surgery to remove my appendix, so I just didn't want to go under again. And shout out to all my C-section mamas. C-sections ain't no joke. You have to be really a strong boss because C-sections are hard. And I was afraid. I was so scared. I was like, no, let me push. Let me figure this out. Let me figure this out. Uh, Shout out to my C-section mamas. It's tough. Them trenches are tough. The recovery is tough. And doesn't make you less a mom either. Because you still delivered that baby. You still made that baby, okay? And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Also, did not want an epidural. Like I said, I'm very afraid of needles. I'm very afraid of needles. And one in your spine? What do you mean? So my best friend though kept saying, as soon as I go into labor, give me my epidural. I'm getting an epidural. And she's like, there's really no prize choosing to get medicated or not choosing to. There's no prize for either one. And I wholeheartedly agree with her. I think the way you choose to deliver your child, there's no prize. The prize is your baby. Good job. You did it, girl. And so at first I was like, I'm not going to do an epidural. I'm going to try. Y'all, as soon as my water broke, nah. As soon as I hit active labor and my water broke, I was like, no. Where the epidural lady at? I said, the lady was like, I'm gonna go tell your doctor that your water broke. And I said, you're gonna call the anesthesiologist, right? Please. That is the craziest pain. And I thought because I have really bad cramps. When I get my period, like really bad cramps, like I pass out. I was given prescription medication. I throw up. Like I have to call out of work because it's so bad. I'm crawled up in the bed in pain. So a lot of people were saying, oh, childbirth is like cramps. And I was like, oh, I get them really bad. If I could do, and it is. But no, y'all, times it by 100. That was tough. That was the worst pain I've probably been in. That was so bad. It was so bad. And I just remember asking for the epidural lady. And when I got the epidural lady, I slept. I slept through my whole laboring. Of course, I pushed, but I was able to really enjoy my laboring process. And I have no shame. I think me wanting to deliver my baby at home probably would not have worked for me. Maybe it would have with a midwife because they have techniques. So, but my thing was with my first pregnancy, I really went into it with an open mind because I was like, listen, I don't want to take the epidural, but if I have to. But the problem was I was afraid of needles. So I was like, if I have to, I'm gonna, gonna do it. But if I don't have to, I won't. My labor went really well. By the grace of God, I'm very aware that delivering a baby can turn into a dangerous situation for the mother and for the child. And I remember telling my doctor, I said, I know the mortality rate for Black women delivering children is high. I said it with tears running down my face. I said, I just want to be able to leave the hospital with my family. And I remember her tearing up and she said, we're gonna make it happen. And she was so attentive and very aware. And it went very smoothly. She was a believer. Yeah, I know she was because certain things she said to my husband, certain questions she had asked my husband, I was like, oh, you're a believer. And we had worship music going on in the room. And she even asked, hey, what you guys listening to? So it was a great experience. And my second experience, as you guys know, I was a mom of two, under two. Now I'm a mom of two and under. And I found out I was pregnant with my second when my first was only 4 months old. My best friend who had her secret wedding in 2023, when I found out I was pregnant, had her big wedding in 2024. At that point, my eldest was 4 months old. And after that, my husband's best friend, and I was the maid of honor at her wedding. Then my husband's best friend got married 10 days after my best friend in Arkansas. And somewhere in between all that wedding bliss and happiness, I got pregnant with my second. We came home and we were in disbelief. We're like, wait, what? No way. But like I said in previous podcasts, our daughter was an answered prayer, and our second daughter was the cup that runneth over. God filled our cup and he allowed it to run over with our second daughter. She is born on my brother's birthday, the one that passed away, y'all. I don't believe God is a God of coincidence, but I wonder why he did that. It's so crazy. That pregnancy was rough also because one, I had a little 4-month old. And when I started to show, my daughter was only like 7 months, 8 months old, and I was running out of energy. It was so hard being pregnant and having a little baby to take care of. But she was such a good kid. I was so blessed. She was such a good kid. She just went to bed. You just put her to bed and she would just go to sleep. She was not a fussy fighter. She wasn't a picky eater too. She liked everything I gave her. This girl eats quinoa. She eats avocado. She loves fish. She loves beans. She eats anything. She just rocks with it. You give it to her, she gonna eat it. She loves overnight oats. She likes chia seeds. Y'all, she just had some beets, drank some beet juice before she went to bed. She was easygoing. So I believe even in my difficulty, God gave me, graced me. He graced me with a child who could just walk alongside me in a very difficult time. And that time I was also discouraged because I shared in a video on social media that I thought ministry for me was ending. As you know, saying I was just wherever I could fit in, I just participated, used my gifts in ministry. And having one kid was easy, but then finding I was pregnant with a second made serving in ministry difficult. So unfortunately, I had to sit down from everything. And I remember crying to my husband because I was like, you know, this is all I know. I've been doing this all my life since I've been going to church, y'all. I've been in all my life. Since I was a kid, I did dance ministry, I did choir, I did praise team, I did creative team. I was in anything that involved the gifts God gave me. And to not be able to do that, I felt like I was going backwards. Little did I know God was preparing me for one of the greatest ministries of my life, which was motherhood. And I remember taking care of my baby while being pregnant. Some days it was so hard to get out of bed. And I did have nausea and morning sickness and night sickness because it's not usually just morning. Mine's hit at night and I couldn't eat. But by the grace of God, it was not as bad as it was with my first. But unfortunately, that's when my doctor went into retirement. So I had to find another doctor, which was stressful. And I was also diagnosed with gestational diabetes. Now, as you all know, I see a high risk doctor the first time. With my thyroid, I had to see a high risk doctor, not just because of my thyroid, but also now because of my gestational diabetes. That was a lot. We struggled really bad in that time because now I'm not working. There is no second income. Um, my husband picked up a part-time job. I remember those times. And I just want to share something very personal. At one point, I remember before we got out of that financial rut, um, we could not afford diapers for my baby. And I remember this man of God. And, because I was out on my own at 17, I always leaned on God. My faith was strong because God was all I had. I didn't have parents. I didn't have a backup plan. It was just me and God getting jobs, working, paying my bills, and figuring it out. And I remember when I would lean on God, He would show up for me. I know God is Jehovah Jireh because I've seen it in my life since I was 17 because I was out here on my own. So I remember one instance we couldn't afford diapers. Now we have our family that we were going to ask. But before we could even ask, and I said to the Lord, I said, God, I know you as a provider. I know you as a provider because I've been in situations like this before and you have shown up for me. And I can tell you guys testimonies after testimonies where God showed up. And so as I'm saying this man of God says to my husband, get in. My husband gets in the car and he takes him and buys diapers for us. We did not ask him. He just did it. And I shouldn't be surprised because I asked God, right? When you ask your Father, He provides. But I was still shocked and grateful. And I just want to encourage somebody, if God put somebody on your heart, please act. If you have the ability, if you have the resources, if you can, please act. And it was not until we were like in an okay place that I told him. And he didn't do it just once. He did it several times. And each time he did it, we needed it. It reminds me of that scripture with Elijah when he was in the valley and God sent the raven to provide bread for him and made sure he was taken care of. God provides ravens for us in seasons of lack, in seasons of where we're in a low place. Elijah was in the valley. He was in a low place and God still sent provision. It wasn't probably how Elijah wanted it because it was a raven dropping bread out of his mouth. But understand God will still send provision. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. It was definitely a different experience from just being pregnant and having no kids. Being pregnant with a kid, as easy as my eldest daughter was, it still was hard. I cried a lot. I remember crying. Being a mom is you're going to have some days where you are in the trenches. After our daughter was born, which she was such a blessing, y'all. She came out looking like an angel. I had to be induced because of gestational diabetes. So grateful for her. She was meant to be here. And I remember my eldest was so sweet with her. And we brought her home. And as grateful as I was to be a mother of two amazing little girls, our pediatrician, he had a baby too. So he went on leave. And we were struggling because she just cried through the night. And it wasn't just regular crying. She was wailing. And then she would wake up the next day wailing. Nothing I did would console her. She was so upset and fussy. There was days that I did not shower, didn't get to brush my teeth. There was days that I was barely surviving, me and my husband, and he could not take his full paternity leave. And with our first, he did, but with the second, unfortunately, he couldn't. And I remember him he didn't even get any sleep, and he still had to go to work and take on this new role that he had at his job. It was rough. That season was really tough. But even in that, I'm grateful. I feel like seasons like that makes us appreciate the quiet seasons, the calm seasons, makes you have more gratitude for it. It kind of makes you like savor it more. I don't know, now that my daughter can sleep through the night, it's just not all the time now. Some nights are rough, but it just makes me appreciate sleep. It makes me appreciate a lot because when you were in that season and you didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you thought it would last forever. But the scriptures is true. Joy does come in the morning. It does. The sun eventually does shine again. And I'm starting to see it peek through the horizon, y'all. We're not there yet. But my daughter, so colicky later through wisdom, because I'm a super observant person. I noticed that certain foods I ate were breaking me out. So I stopped them. And when I would stop them, she would sleep through the night. And when I would eat them, she would cry. And that's how we discovered she had a milk allergy. So I completely cut dairy out of my diet, and we could not give her regular formula. And we navigated this alone because we were seeing other pediatricians, but our pediatrician, chef's kiss, great guy. Shout out to him, the best. And he really takes his time to get to know us. And, you don't get a lot of pediatricians like that. They just in and out and then they're done with you. Our pediatrician sits and talks to us, and he leaves space for us to ask questions and make sure that we're completely done asking those questions. Amazing guy. You don't find that a lot in the medical field anymore, and it sucks. But I'm grateful for who we have. And my poor child, she had a milk allergy. And so my eldest has an egg allergy. And I just knew it was an allergy because she was doing the same thing that my eldest was doing with her allergy. We're still trying to figure out milks. She just turned 1. She's now 14 months, and I'm just so proud of her. She is such a fighter. She's so strong and funny, and she's just her own person. Like, she doesn't care about anybody in the room. She just does her own thing. She doesn't look to follow, even though she is the baby. She just kind of does her own thing, and I love her. I love both of them. I'm grateful. And that's my pregnancy story and the difficulties I went through. And I know some people went through even worse scenarios, especially labor stories that are terrible. Just stuff I've seen in the news about the women being turned away while in active labor. 2 actually I saw recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy that this happens in a world where we should show compassion to one another. And instead, we're drawing so cold towards each other. And the Bible says to love God with all your heart and to love your neighbor as yourself. And I believe, as believers at least, let us shine our light and make sure that we're loving our neighbors as ourselves. Regardless of what this world's doing, we're called to do that. I know pregnancy can be hard. And if you want to talk about it, please put your comments in the comment section. And we could talk about it and engage. I need to check Spotify and Apple Music to make sure I'm not missing anyone's comments if anybody's saying anything on those platforms. Okay, so my motherhood hack would be very simple. Drink water. I don't think people realize how dehydrated we are. I hope you're drinking water. It's not just good for your skin, but it's good for those organs. I share life hacks that not only are good for you and for self-care, but I think they're also good for your longevity in life, for your children to see you. There's this quote that says, people say I would die for my children, but would you live for them also? We need to start taking care of our bodies, even if it's just making sure you're drinking proper water intake with some lemon in it to detox that liver, or with some fruit, make it colorful. Drink water, y'all. And teas are great. I'm really trying to leave coffee alone, and I'm trying to get into some tea. My husband, he's been putting me on. Just simply not eating past 8 or 7 after dinner. I've been trying to implement those things just to be a better me. I'm not a nurse, but I'm big on health, and I keep seeing nurses talk about how fatty liver and all this stuff is on the rise. And I just encourage you to drink your water, take care of your body, take care of your temple. It's only one we have. And if you would die for your children, choose to also live for them. Stay hydrated. You know what? I'm going to throw another one in there, and anoint your home. We're going into the new year, and Pray and anoint your home. Pray for peace over your home. Anoint the home. Consecrate it unto God. Pray over your children. Pray over your husband. I don't think people understand how powerful prayer is. As mothers, we need to pray over our children. Some things can't be disciplined out of them, can't be spanked or grounded out of them. Some things have to be fought spiritually. Pray over your children. Anoint their heads with oil and go to war for them in the spiritual realm. Plead the blood of Jesus over their lives, over their decisions. Pray for wisdom as they get older. Pray that they may have a personal conviction for the things of God and that they may have a personal relationship with the Lord. So I guess I gave two. Take care of yourself, y'all. If you like what I discussed today, please share this with another mom, a mom-to-be, or someone who might enjoy listening to a mom's perspective. As we develop and I share more of my story, I look forward to talking more about all things motherhood and how it is ministry. So stay tuned. We're going to grow this thing and we're going to create a community. This has been Shana with Motherhood Ministry, where we talk about the real, the rewards, and the revelations of motherhood. Please share, like, comment, subscribe, do what you got to do. Help a sister out. Bye.